A huge controversy rages across India. Have the Chinese indeed pulled back from their original positions in the Galwan Valley? Is any Indian territory currently under Chinese occupation in this area where the confrontation took place? India today has been exclusively able to access satellite pictures put out by a company called Maxar, one of the world's leading satellite companies. The three new satellite images which I will decode for you over the next several minutes. These are images from the Galwan Valley. Remember, there have been confrontations in the hot spring area, the Pangong area and the Galwan Valley. The Galwan Valley has been most in the news because on the 15th of June there was a bloody, brutal confrontation between the Indian and Chinese armies. So I'm going to take you straight to the new picture. But I'll give you a sense of where this picture is from. So this is a Google Earth's archival image of just the general lay of the land, which now virtually everyone's familiar with. This is Patrol Point 14. As you come up the Nala, that is where the confrontation between the Indian and the Chinese armies took place. And what we're about to do is show you what's happening in this area on the 22nd of June, which is 1 week after the crisis, the military crisis between the Indian and Chinese armies. And I want to tell you that these are images that absolutely nobody has seen so far. This is the first time we are putting them out in India today. They answer some very substantive questions. So get set. Here are the new satellite pictures that have been accessed by India today. So this is one route where we've accessed a picture. This one shows the Nala snaking its way up. What this image shows is some road construction happening on the Indian side of the line of actual control, which basically means regardless of Chinese pressure, protestations asking the Indian army and the Indian government to hold back on developing infrastructure along the border areas. The message from India is firm. This is our land. We will develop our infrastructure in just the same way as the Chinese have on their side of the line of actual control. So you can actually see some earth-moving equipment, some roads being built over here, a new bridge being activated as well. And that's the first set of satellite. And just look at the level of resolution. These, of course, unlike the last satellite images, which are from a different angle, these are right from the top. So they give you a view from the sky of what's happening in this area. I want to come now to the second satellite picture. This one is on the Chinese side, and it shows you, you can see some of these red tents. Those are Chinese tents, and it shows you some JCB, some road. I just lost that 1 second. It shows you some equipment on the Chinese side, which is being used to make these roads. And you can actually zoom in quite a lot to show that to our viewers. I'm also joined for perspective on these new satellite pictures by Ankit Kumar, the reporter from the India Today Open Source Intelligence Desk. He's been working with Maxar in pulling these pictures out. We're also joined at this time by Colonel Vinayak Bhatt. In fact, in this image, you can see the Chinese digging on the side of the mountain. They're actually trying to dig on the side of the mountain so that you can widen the area in the Nala and build more military camps there. So first I want to go across to Ankit Kumar, who's accessed these pictures from Maxar. Ankit, you've been studying these pictures. Describe to our viewers what you see in the three satellite images. What is it that we've picked up through Maxar? Ankit.
Well, Rahul, these are the first very high-resolution images of the crucial Patrol Point 14 in the Galwan River Valley, which has become the talking point after June 15 incident. Since the incident of June 15, there were questions about the control of this position. Government claimed that the Patrol Point was still under Indian control, but the questions have been there in public domain about the position. Now, what these images are showing us that not only we have the control of Patrol Point 14, we are continuing with the crucial assignment of road constructions from PP14 to the LSE. One important disclosure, Rahul, here is that by showing these images, we are not compromising any secret or hidden strategic position of Indian troops. The patrol point can be seen by the Chinese from ground with naked eyes. So also, there are no artillery deployment on either side. That's what we have picked from these images. So these fresh new images from the Worldview satellite of Maxar are very high resolution images from June 22, showing that all the posturing and the threat by the PLA has not resulted into any kind of impact on the Indian intention of developing the infrastructure. Three quick points, Rahul. First takeaway is India has not ceded an inch of the area in Galwan, including the contested area by the Chinese, which India claims its own. Second, we have the control over PP-14. Third, not only we have the control, our troops are continuing with the crucial infra development in the area, despite all the threat and not by the Chinese. Rahul?
I want to also go across to Colonel Vinayak Bhatt and understand from him his reading of these pictures, because in addition to the pictures that have just come out through Maxar, you've been studying this area very, very carefully. I just want to show this to our viewers and you can talk about it. You wrote about it in your analytical report, that digging into the mountainside, trying to expand the Nala, because a very narrow Nala, you can't really move too many vehicles there. Explain what you're seeing, Colonel Bhatt, in these satellite images.
Yeah, Rahul, thank you very much. The images are very, very clear. The reclamation, what China was trying to do a few days ago, looks to be complete. There is a possible blacktopping. Preparations are going on that road, and a lot of earth-moving equipment, especially huge cranes and huge bulldozers, are seen slightly behind, about 500 meters from the conflict point. The important thing here is the conflict point, where you can see the red tents and a lot of movement of Chinese soldiers. That is what is worrying as of date. That lies exactly on the LAC, and that is the place where we were contesting the Chinese. Today, the Chinese have come up and ensured that they remain there. India, on the Indian side, we can see kind of a Sangad wall which has been created, and about 500 meters behind from that wall, our forces are seen. We are following whatever has been decided on 6th of June and beyond that. But what has happened, that the PLA is adamant and they are not budging. They're not going back even 10 meters from that particular point where we had a conflict. That is what is very worrying. The large cranes and earth-moving equipment which is being used, that is all lying there and being used for further reclamation and further maintaining whatever they have constructed till now. What I see on top of the mountain is that the tracks are coming from Indian side. So most probably it is held by India and not by China, as reported by many of the military experts earlier. There are certain vehicles which are under camouflage nets, red camouflage nets. They are basically to tell us that they are Chinese, but they are camouflage nets. What is underneath that? That is not seen. It is kind of a tarpaulin probably. So there are about 8 to 10 vehicles which you really cannot make out what kind of vehicles they are. They could be anything. So China is building up in this particular small little narrow valley, and they are preparing for something ominous. You cannot make out much from this particular image more than what I've said. Rahul.
Okay, I want to show our viewers a report that we put together on the water channeling work that the Chinese are doing. And if you can see on some of these maps, you can actually notice the channeling work that's happening. And the purpose of that channeling work is really to ensure that you can collect the water. It's a free-flowing river, that you can block it at places and then expand the size of the area on the side of the river so that you can then build a dirt track, which is a motorable dirt track, and your vehicles can go through. So our open source desk puts together this analysis of the channeling that's currently underway in the Galwan Nala. Here's a report.
In the East China Sea, the South China Sea in Taiwan. China has made no secret of its territorial push in Asia. The writing was clear on the wall for Ladakh to unfold. As India rejects China's claims over the mountainous region, a deeper analysis of satellite imagery shows Beijing altered the river ecosystem in Galwan to reclaim the area. A unique method adopted by Chinese engineers, as large deployment along the Galwan River posed a challenge after the PLA barged in last month on the pretext of a military drill. The Chinese moved to reduce the width of the waterway by canalizing it deeper with earth-moving equipment. Look at these dozers in satellite images taken a day after the June 15th hand-to-hand combat. That's what the Chinese had used to create a channel on the northern bank of the river. A channel that did away with the need to build a couple of bridges. Compelling evidence of the Chinese advances on the sides of the Galwan River all along right up to 40 kilometers from the LAC.
China is interested in becoming a regional hegemon. It's interested in becoming the dominant power in Asia. It's interested in changing the status quo in the South China Sea, changing the status quo in the East China Sea vis-a-vis Taiwan and its border with India. As China becomes more and more powerful, it will take greater steps to change the border with India in its favor.
The Chinese dug the earth out from mountainsides, knowing waterlogging seen in the area would eventually dry up or be pumped out. With a track record of maritime incursions in deep ocean, the Chinese used engineering expertise to fulfill their ambitions up in the freezing mountains. Bureau Report, India Today.
You in fact can see some of the channeling work that we were speaking about in that report in these satellite pictures as well. Here you see, so it's a fast-flowing river, and suddenly there's an effort to try and block the flow of the river so that, and if you think of it logically, if the river were to flow from here, there wouldn't be enough space for a vehicle to go through. So they've parked vehicles here. You can see those vehicles parked under these camouflage nets. They've blocked the flow of the river because if the river goes around this bend, it's a very narrow bend, and if the river were to go around the bend as it would ordinarily, then the vehicle wouldn't be able to pass. So to ensure that these vehicles which have come on this side are able to pass through this bend, and that's why these satellite images are so remarkable. You can actually see things which otherwise, there's no way to be able to explain, but the moment you actually see it, that channeling work makes a lot of sense. Ankit, what's your broad sense of the infrastructure development work? We saw the Northern Army Command put out images of a new bridge that had been built on the Galwan. So despite all the pressure tactics coming from Beijing, the message from India is very clear. Our infrastructure development continues unabated.
That's right, Rahul. The difference between last week's images from Planet Labs and this week's images from Maxar is the camera angle. The last week's images actually showed the Chinese side of the Galwan River Valley. This particular image that we are putting on our screens is taken actually from Indian side of the line of actual control. And what it actually shows is that the control over the crucial PP14 point is with the Indian troops, and the construction work that you are seeing just adjacent to the PP14 point is done by the Indian troops. In fact, you can see the Indian the camouflage sign used by Indian Army in those images, Rahul. So the crucial takeaway here is that despite all the provocation, despite all the posturing by the Chinese army and the unfortunate incident of June 15, the crucial position of PP14 remains with the Indian army, and the crucial work of infrastructure development at the LAC, along the LAC, continues. And these images are the ultimate proof that Indian Army is not backing down, Indian Army is not taking a step back, and the infrastructure work which the Chinese have already been doing since last few years on their side of the LAC, Indian side is continuing with that.
You know, I'll show our viewers what Ankit is talking about in these pictures. As I were to move back, you can actually see, and anybody who's seen an Indian vehicle, an Indian Army convoy, will tell you that these look very much like Indian Army vehicles, and that's where Colonel Bhatt can come in and give perspective as well, because it's very interesting that despite all the pressure coming from China, because this is uncontestably Indian land, the Indian Army, the Border Roads Organization, remaining committed to completing infrastructure projects on the Indian side. Colonel Bhatt.
Yes, Rahul, that is correct. We have also not gone behind much, but as per whatever has been agreed, we are trying to follow the agreements to the word. Whereas Chinese PLA is not doing so. They are sitting at the conflict point and trying to amass troops just behind that particular conflict point. Almost 500 to 1,000 people should be there in that particular area of about 200 meters, where they have pitched tents and put up their accommodation all along where they have, reclaimed the river. That is what is worrying. They are not following the agreement which was done on 6th of June by their Lieutenant General. If they're not following their own general's orders, I really wonder what kind of an army it is. And
this is what I just want to refresh the memory of our viewers. I pulled out now the previous set of images that had been put out. These are from Planet Labs. This is the Indian side of the line of actual control. The red line shows the line of actual control. You can see the Indian build-up in the earthworks that we showed you from a different angle. And as you come down the Nala, you can see the Chinese build-up here very, very clearly visible in these satellite pictures. The Chinese build-up, which you can see, we've zoomed it out here for you. You can actually zoom in and see the Chinese build-up, which shows you the kind of mobilization they have. And remember, as I said, the pictures that we've just shown you, these ones are from the 22nd of June. So more than a week after this brutal confrontation between the Indian and the Chinese armies, you can still see deployment and the infrastructure development work that's going on. With this, we take a quick break. We'll have more for you on the other side. Stay with us. Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kanwal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.